Welcome to the Flynn Effect podcast, where we dive deep into all things culture, industry news, and history, all with the goal of helping our clients to perform better.
Well, welcome back to the Flynn Effect. I'm Heather Riexinger, back again. Today, I'm joined by Danny Meloon from our media team. So, Danny, there's a lot that's been going on this week with Google. Google I/O was happening. I know you sat in on a lot of the sessions. So would love to hear your take on what's been going on and kind of high level what you've heard.
Yeah. I mean, the highest possible level for the entire keynote was AI, which is kind of the biggest high level of the industry in general is just, and a lot of other industries, I'm sure, is just AI. So that's the highest level.
Yeah. Well, from your perspective, what were the two things that stood out with, everything's AI, but not just headline wise, what should we be paying attention to in the marketing world?
Yeah. I think an interesting one has been just them talking about how much Google and Google products are integral to the purchasing journey, and not just in search engines the way that people traditionally think of it, of people like Googling to just find stuff, but even something that I have been saying for a long time of like YouTube is like one of the most viewed things, period. And so they had a couple of specific new product launch things that they've been working on that one of them was Ask YouTube, which is more specifically like kind of making YouTube have a more direct search feature for people that are like looking for information on a set topic or products. Which that sounds really interesting. And then even as another part of that, they had, direct shopping links that you can have like on a YouTube video for like specific products that you're promoting, and a lot of interesting stuff. And then the other really interesting one to me was Ask Advisor was what it was called. It is a Gemini powered piece of software that they're using, and it basically reaches through Google, all of the Google suite of products for the most part. The ones that they specifically said were Google Ads, Merchant, and Google GA4, or Google Analytics. And so having there be a single AI agent chat feature that you can have this conversation with on like, they were pretty vague. So to actual speak to it, I'm going to be interested to actually get my hands on it and try it out. But in theory, it'd be very cool to be like, all right, I'm working in Google Ads, but I need to check something that is attributed through GA4. Let me just type it in and see if it can be passed from one to the other, instead of having to like, open up a new tab, go into a report, pull a bunch of reports, see if I can get what I can, and then attribute it back down. So there's a lot. I mean, it seems interesting.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see what they promise is usually version 6 that comes out, 3 years from now. So will be interesting to see what those first things that come through. And obviously everything they're doing is trying to monetize everything that we look at.
Yes.
So that'll be really interesting from a marketer's perspective for us of what new buying opportunities and placement opportunities there are for you and our clients.
Yeah, specifically on like new placements, they just really pushed Performance Max, AI Max as two of the bigger pieces to kind of go in and push for people to start purchasing on. AI Max in particular, I think a big conversation within search in general is just how often the AI overview tends to cut into some of your, can attribute to CPCs getting higher as time's been going on, and all sorts of other issues with just search engine marketing, because it's taking that top spot even above the stuff that has been traditionally the paid top spot that you're trying to get. So AI Max in particular, and in some of those they're specifically pitching like, hey, you can have ads that are appearing in that AI overview. And that seems like a really useful thing, as long as you're able to be, very directed and very what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah,
Deliberate. Yeah.
deliberate and intentional. I think
Intentional.
intentionality, that's the big piece, is just making sure that you're going on there. And some of it is, things that are still staying the same
Mhm.
as well. They mentioned it very particularly during the presentation, that
Mhm.
the way to get on those pieces organically and to be organically included in that AI
Mhm.
overview, it's through the same things people are already doing. It's SEO, it's
Mhm.
all of those pieces. So it's still, it's changing, but there's
Mhm.
still the fundamentals that are still needing to be fallen back on.
Yeah. And I think from a consumer perspective, it's always so interesting that Google's kind of working as an agent for me now,
Mhm.
where I don't need to do the work. It used to give me options and I had to do all the reading and the work. And now a lot of times it's summarizing everything for me. So I find it interesting because unless something pops up in that overview that I already know to be untrue, I kind of take it for
Mhm.
true. So it's interesting now that you can pay to place
Yep.
content in there. So
Yep.
it will be ever evolving as we know. So awesome. So outside of these new updates, is this impacting anything that you're currently running? Is there any like small shifts that you're hearing about that aren't just massive overhauls of things that we should be aware of?
I didn't really feel like it was anything too groundbreaking yet. Like nothing
Mm-hmm.
that's a complete paradigm shift necessarily. I think their biggest focus to me felt like just trying to make you be able to do the work
Mm-hmm.
that you're already doing more efficiently, and quicker. I guess that's the same word, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
but they had something along the lines. I don't remember what it was in particular called, but it was it might have been Spark, but I don't remember. Basically, like taking a
Mm-hmm.
brief in plain language, throwing it in there, and it will, make a uh, grab specific uh, targeting or particular pieces to make the campaign for
Mm-hmm.
you, so you don't have to necessarily like think of every single knob and switch that you have to pull.
Yeah.
And knowing every single piece that's in there can be very difficult at times.
Mm-hmm.
They're also always adding things and taking things
Yeah.
away in any platform that you're getting used to. I know that last year, I believe during this event, they had talked about that being something within DV360 in particular, so not search, but on the programmatic side. And I honestly, I mean, I also switched to where I'm doing
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
programmatic in my day to day, but I haven't used it. So I'm also wondering with some of those is like, are these features even going to be something that like make it into my day to day adoption, or is it just like a nice little bell and whistle
Yeah.
that's there? So I think with any of these products and with any tech company in general, like yeah, they're going to tell you it's going to change your life, but
Mm-hmm.
we got to see,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, so that's a great point because obviously Meta announced massive layoffs this week.
Mhm.
Everyone's moving into AI. People are afraid, it's AI's taking our jobs. Um, but we talk a lot here at Flynn about how AI is great and it's a useful tool for all of us, but the human touch is really what's important and the brain power behind that AI. So, how do you feel like any of these things are impacting the way that you work, and where do you feel that it's imperative that someone like you or on your team still be watching those optimizations, looking at what AI is doing? Where is the human touch most important, do you think, in media still?
I think the human touch really comes down to strategy and
Mm-hmm.
strategizing and making those decisions at a high level and
Mm-hmm.
directing the AI or the platforms in general
Mm-hmm.
in the direction that they need to be working. Like if you just try to do a set and forget sort of situation, you're going to have things stagnate. You're going to have things not work
Mm-hmm.
as well as they could if you weren't checking in
Mm-hmm.
consistently. And I think AI in general, we have AI that we'll use now and then that takes like reports that we've run in previous weeks and we feed them into the AI to summarize some of those to give us like a better overview of what we did in like a set month.
Mhm.
And that's a really nice way of just, we did the work to start with. We made those optimizations, we track them,
Mhm.
and then having it be spelled out very quickly through AI can then help us kind of reorient on what we
Mhm.
did in a set month, decide what worked and what didn't work based on that. And AI is not going to tell us in a way that's meaningful, at least right
Mhm.
now, on what may or may not have worked based on, we are the people that are in there and
Yeah.
touching everything. So I think it's just having the knowledge and having the willingness to change things when they aren't working.
Mhm.
And I just don't think AI is at the point yet to
Mhm.
be necessarily telling you to change stuff
Yeah.
all the time.
Well, I
In
think
some ways they can, but
it is what it does what it
yeah,
knows, and you're not going to break through.
yeah,
Like you just talked about, the strategy is so important, and I use it a lot to check my thinking.
yeah,
Like you said, does this make sense? What's missing? Did it optimize the way I wanted it to? So
yeah,
awesome. Great. Well, obviously the through line here is AI, isn't just another feature. It's really changing the way that we work.
yeah,
So if we're sitting here, a year from now, what do you anticipate, or, if you had a crystal ball,
yeah.
what do you think is going to change the most in the next year, in terms of media buying?
Yeah, I know that there have been just straight agentic purchases,
Mm-hmm.
where you're not going through DSPs directly anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're going via an agent that is communicating directly with an SSP and making those changes. And that's really promising. I think that just in plain language, telling an agent, go buy this directly through an SSP, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That cuts out a lot of, tech fees even.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, there will be then tech
Yeah.
fees that will appear there too, so you're never escaping them.
Yeah.
But that I think is an important factor. I think also something that they had said during the presentation was, I think it was through Gemini Spark,
Mm-hmm.
was that they're pushing. Also, a big through line throughout all of this is, and I saw an article that was talking about it in
Mm-hmm.
particular, that Gemini has stopped being just like this AI assistant, and they're attempting to really make it be more of the underlying
Mm-hmm.
operating system that cuts through every part of Google's ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So, that I think is really promising because they have so many of
Mm-hmm.
these platforms that we rely on them communicating well to one another.
Right.
We're running things on Google Ads, we're running things in DV360, we're running things then, we're trafficking them through CM, and it's all of these
Mm-hmm.
things. And, I'll have like 30, 40 windows open
Yeah.
being like, where am I? And
Mm-hmm.
so having something at the very least that can be communicating through each of those as a common through line, like maybe in a year, one of the things that they specifically had said was this sort of cycle of having, your measurement is talking to your media is talking to your something else. I can't read
Can't
my
even
own
read you.
handwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, having all of those different pieces communicating with each other and being able to take a little bit of your hands off the scale
Mm-hmm.
on a day-to-day basis, and just being able to be focused on that high level strategy of where is this going, who am I trying to reach, and how am I trying to do that.
Well, I think that that's the key positive that I'm seeing coming up with all of the AI is, as a smaller agency, we are, a lot of times you need to put out the fire that's in front of
Hmm.
you. And all of this AI is taking away some of the mundane tasks.
Yeah,
And we're able to put more time into thought, strategy, looking forward, what's coming, the next 3, 6, 9 months, 3 years from now. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to all of that. And I'm interested to see, you know, ChatGPT, was everything everyone was talking about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
And now Google and
Claude.
Meta and
Yeah,
Claude and everyone, there's all of these new pieces that are coming out and new platforms. And it'll be really interesting to
yeah,
see how they come out, but then also how they combine, because
Mhm.
ultimately everyone's going to buy each other, and
Yeah.
Google
Yeah.
will own everything
Yeah.
again in a
Always.
year.
Yep.
So,
It also was interesting, like talking about small agencies and the
Mhm.
way they work. I originally, I came from a slightly larger
Yeah.
agency, and so it's definitely a different environment. I'm doing a lot more across a lot of different mediums, and I really like it because
Mhm.
I get to kind of get my hands dirty in a bunch of different
Yeah.
ways, and it's interesting. And I think AI has a chance to help, make, I've used it just initially in a lot of ways
Mhm.
to get caught up and to learn things a little bit faster, and
Mhm.
that helps on training. But um there's also one of the pieces that they had discussed in the presentation itself was just around how, specifically for small agencies and for these smaller companies, like, it is allowing you to not only take on bigger clients than they previously would have thought
Mhm.
they were able to, but also monetize things that they thought were too small.
Mhm.
So being able to kind of open that window up
Love
a
that.
little bit
Yeah.
more seems really, really promising. And
Mhm.
also, there are one of the other things that was the most interesting to me, but I think I have to
Mhm.
play with it on my own time, was Google Anti-Gravity was what it was called. It
Yeah,
was,
I've
yeah,
been reading a little bit about that.
it sounds cool. I
Mhm.
need to look into it more before I'm speaking like
Yeah.
authoritatively
Yeah.
on it, but having there be an easier way to code, because it is a
Mhm.
coding, sort of an
Mhm.
agentic coding platform, seems really promising for, more and more times. I think proprietary technology tends to be something that gets talked about, and having something that makes that a little easier to put out
Mhm.
and to work on quickly,
Yeah.
that's really, really useful. So might download that on my personal
Mhm.
computer and mess around with it for
See
a
what
little
we
bit and
can,
see what it
yeah.
is. Yeah,
See
see
if
if it
it
works.
crashes everything.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
Maybe. So great. Well, thank you for coming and chatting, Danny. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with in terms of updates or what they should be watching?
Um, no, I don't think I have anything. They ended their YouTube segments
Hmm.
in a very particular way, and I'm gonna end it the exact same
Oh
way. It
gosh,
was
I'm scared.
please smash that like button and like and subscribe.
Perfect. Great.